Yeah, what's up, y'all gang? Okay, so welcome to low resolution PNG background images. I think it's fun, and I think everyone should shut the fuck up, okay? Okay, it's 10 p.m. on a Saturday, and I'm recording this because I want to, and also because I had work today and yesterday, so I've been talking a lot, and my voice, I think, it sounds lower than it normally is, so I thought it would be kind of a fun little thing to talk a little bit deeper. I don't know. Hey, so real quick before we start, I forgot to change the turtle expressions for like the first quarter of this video. My bad. I recorded this in two sections. I recorded the Lonely Hearts Murders part, and then I recorded the Brink of Consciousness part as a separate video. So I realized that I had forgotten about the turtle halfway through the Lonely Hearts section. So just, you know, stay tuned. Otherwise, whoops. Anyway, so welcome to the Brink of Consciousness video. I am so excited. I love these games, and this one, it has a little bit of a lore from my childhood aspect. Isn't that so fun? So back when I was a kid, I played a bunch of hidden object adventure games, like puzzle games, and the ones that I remember the most are like, they were all like creepy and kind of, you know, goof. But the one, there's like three of them that I remember kind of like pretty vividly, but the one that I remember the most vividly was called Brink of Consciousness Dorian Gray Syndrome. I can vividly remember, or I could, obviously I can remember it now, I've replayed the game, but I could vividly remember some of the art and the layouts of the rooms and things like that. But I also remembered that I never finished that game. And the reason for that actually is because I was like 9 years old, which, but I was like 9 years old playing this on my Kindle Fire in elementary school. So for whatever reason, the game, it wouldn't save if I closed the app or turned my Kindle off. So I would have to restart every single time I wanted to play the game. And there was like one part, I don't even remember where, but there was one part that I got stuck on every time. So I could never finish it, which is so funny because I was just stupid and 9. Which, now that I think about it, is probably the reason that probably the reason that I had such vivid memories of the game in the first place, because I had to keep playing the beginning of it over and over. Lo and behold, it's available on Steam. So I downloaded the game, and I figured it was time to settle the score. But partway through, I went, hey, I should make a video on the story of this game. It's really cool, and I haven't heard really anyone talking about this game in my entire life. So I started brewing up this idea in the back of my head, but then I finished the game and realized that the actual amount of story involved wasn't really that much. It was mostly puzzles and walking around. So I was like, well shit, this video would be short as fuck. Come to find out, there's actually a second game. The second game is a prequel called Brink of Consciousness, The Lonely Hearts Murders, and I had never played this before, never heard of it, but I figured if it's connected, I will give it a shot, and then I can explain both in this video. So I'm going to tell this whole story chronologically, meaning that since Lonely Hearts is a prequel, I will start with that one, but just remember that it actually came out after Dorian Gray Syndrome. So you could be big brain epic and actually watch this video twice if you feel so inclined, and then you can sort of get it chronological and also chronological, if you know what I mean. A little background before we start. Both of these games were developed by a company called Magic Indie Softworks, which is an indie studio based in Moldova. The company was founded in 2009, and they stopped making games somewhere around 2019. Both Dorian Gray Syndrome and The Lonely Hearts Murders were released sometime between 2012 and 2014. I tried to look this up, and there's conflicting dates pretty much everywhere I look, so I just gave up, but that's the rough estimate. So again, for personal context, I was 9 in 2012. I was around the ages of 9 when I played this game. Well, when I played Dorian Gray Syndrome. The Lonely Hearts Murders I didn't play until the ripe old age of 21 years old. So, let's start the fucking story. I'm so excited. Y'all aren't even ready. Okay, starting with The Lonely Hearts Murders, which opens with, well, it doesn't open with shit, but the menu screen has this guy standing at a window. Dilf alert, by the way. He's hot. Looking mad contemplative, right? And it's all rainy and shit, and he's just standing there pondering. But when you actually start the game, there's a 3D animated cinematic of our protagonist slash player character, aka the guy in the window, writing a letter to the local detective, Logan Green, about his missing daughter, Olivia.
Dear Logan, so sorry to trouble you at this late hour. I am, however, extremely worried about Olivia.
We find out that this guy's name is Owen Wright, and he's apparently an old friend of Logan's, which the interview with the developers that's unlockable in the end of the game explains that he's actually a retired detective himself, which explains why he's so much better than Logan at finding clues throughout the entire fucking game. But we'll get into that later. The letter that Owen is writing is informing Logan that his daughter Olivia is missing. Owen's daughter, not Logan's daughter. Owen also mentions that he's worried it could be related to the recent murders done by someone dubbed the Lonely Hearts Killer. While he's writing the letter, we also get the reveal of this fuck-ass Olivia portrait, and also we get the reveal that he's British. British jump scare. Whoa. The cinematic ends, and the first chapter begins, which is where you get to take over and start clicking around for clues and shit. So Logan shows up at Owen's house, which we're currently at, by the way. And this is the beginning of the biggest difference between Dorian Gray syndrome and the Lonely Hearts murders. The Lonely Hearts murders is full of animated and fully voiced characters, along with tons of fully animated cutscenes. This basically didn't happen in Dorian Gray syndrome, since the only character we ever saw was Oscar, and most of his lines were said over an intercom system. I really enjoyed this difference. It makes the world feel a lot more fleshed out, but I also love how they did it in Dorian Gray, because the almost claustrophobic nature of the whole story taking place in Oscar's house really adds to the vibe. But anyways, continuing on, you guys can ponder that again later when I talk about Dorian Gray syndrome and you actually know who the fuck Oscar is and what I'm talking about. So Logan and Owen have a conversation about Olivia's disappearance that lets us in on a bit more context on how the Lonely Hearts Killer operates. It seems he kidnaps people and waits 30 days before killing them, meaning they now only have 29 days to find Olivia before she's killed because, as Owen mentioned in his letter, she's been missing for 24 hours. Logan also mentions that the local widow apparently saw Olivia this morning, so that's where they're headed next to start their investigation. This is another big difference between Dorian Gray syndrome and the Lonely Hearts murders. In Dorian Gray, we already know who the killer is from the beginning, and there's only like 3 characters anyway, but in the Lonely Hearts murders, we have no idea who's responsible, so it switches the genre a bit from horror to mystery, which is really cool. Now you might be wondering, letters? British people? Local widow? Just what fucking year is it? Well, fun fact, this game takes place in 1890s London. Actually, I think it's exactly 1890, but that's neither here nor there. Actually, it is literally here because it's written on Owen's clock. It says 1890 London. Anyways, so Owen makes Logan a quick cup of tea, and then, what the fuck was that? What the fuck was... Okay. And then they head out to the widow's place. I will now point out another big difference between the Lonely Hearts murders and Dorian Gray syndrome. This game takes place in an entire town with different chapters having entirely different maps, whereas all of Dorian Gray syndrome, like I said, takes place in Oscar's house, besides the bonus chapter at the end. So that's another thing that's very cool, very epic. This beginning part, I guess, is a compilation of me comparing the games, but you guys don't even fucking know the other one yet. So as they're on their way, we get more context as to Olivia's situation. So apparently Olivia had an incident at a ball with a guy named Hugh Lewis, which would mean that Olivia herself may have a lonely heart, perchance. We also find out that this widow that we're going to visit is named Charlotte, and she's having a dinner party. So Owen and Logan pull up to Charlotte's house, and they're like in front of her house, and they have this little exchange that ends in this fucking laugh coming out of Logan's mouth.
How things change.
There's a lot of funny-ass Logan moments in this game. He's really hilarious. So anyways, they go inside, and they're greeted by a table of people playing poker. And this one dude gets up, and he's all,
I've never seen anyone as slimy as you, Archie.
and then he storms out. This guy is Leonard Bain, the resident Archie hater, and we'll see more of why later. Archie, by the way, is the local writer, so he acts all high and mighty, and like he's all artistic and distinguished and just, you know, a connoisseur. Very film bro energies, but like in 1890s London, you know? Yo, editing Ash in the building. Random thing to like nitpick, but I said film bro, but I meant like, I don't know if there's a term for these people, but like people who are like really pretentious about movies, and it's like all they watch is like indie films, and they think that they have like a better grasp on humanity, and like they think that they're like morally superior and have like a deeper understanding of everything. He's like that. He's just like pretentious in like that art kind of way. Like the kind of people who would want to bring you to a fine arts museum for a first date. You know what I mean? So just, correcting myself on that. So Owen asks Charlotte where she saw Olivia, and Charlotte says she saw Olivia talking to Leonard earlier, and she also says Olivia took off her headband and gave it to him, and she also notes that Leonard has been acting strangely recently. So after this conversation ends, Logan leaves to go look for Leonard, and Owen stays behind in Charlotte's house for a bit, which is where you get the choice to talk to everyone at the table. So if you click on everyone a bunch of times, you learn a whole bunch of interesting stuff about the situation and all the people at the table. Which, by the way, there's 2 more people at the table that I haven't mentioned yet. One of them is an old lady who we later find out is named Matilda, and the other is a guy named Jonathan Kirk. So all the shit you can learn from them, well, not all of it, but the relevant shit, is as follows. 1. The way the Lonely Hearts Killer works is that he kidnaps people who have broken or lonely hearts and then kills them after 30 days and carves out their hearts, sets their bodies up in a public place, and puts a yellow lotus in the hole where the heart used to be. So a quick note on the yellow lotus. In the developer interview, they mention that the yellow lotus symbolizes family, but after I looked it up, I found it can also symbolize rebirth and spiritual ascension, which I personally think fits better as a symbol on the victims' bodies. But the theme of this game is meant to be family love and how far parents will go for their kids. So the family thing makes sense in that way, but it doesn't quite make sense to me why the killer would want to put a flower meant to symbolize family in the hearts of his victims when the reason behind the murders has nothing to do with that anyways. But we'll get to that later. 2, Matilda has a nephew who talks about having a son one day and naming him Oscar, and that they'd go hunting together. Important for later. 3, Charlotte's full name is Charlotte Hall, and Matilda had mentioned that the Hall family crest was a yellow lotus, so she's throwing shade immediately. 4, Archie claims that Leonard is just jealous of his success, and then he tries to sell us on his novels, which is really funny. And then 5, the most recent victim of the Lonely Hearts Killer is a guy named Peter Ross, who has a surviving dad named Benjamin, who everyone is now worried about because he's kind of a friend. I mean, you get the vibe that this town is very small and everyone knows everyone and they all theoretically kind of care about each other. So Benjamin is the local doctor. 6, we find out that Jonathan has a missing relative as well, his niece, Elizabeth, who was engaged to a sailor that never came back from one of his voyages. And 7, we find out that Olivia's heartbreak came from Hugh Lewis showing up at the ball with another woman, which is literally fucking insane. They go through all the trouble of naming Hugh Lewis, like giving him an entire first and last name, but we don't ever see him, which I think is kind of sad. But we do get a line where Owen is like, if I ever get my hands on that guy.
If I ever get my hands on that lowlife Lewis.
Which is really funny. And is an example of what parents would go through for their kids, perhaps. Interesting. Anyway, so after talking to everyone, Owen leaves to go meet back up with Logan. So Logan is down by the gate that leads to the police station and the local park, which is where Peter's body currently is. Peter, remember, being the local doctor's kid and the recent dead guy. There's a lot of names to try to keep up with. Anyway, Logan tells Owen that he'll meet him at the crime scene. And then when Owen tries to get into the park, the officer standing guard, whose name we later find out is Jaden Evans, refuses to let Owen in because he doesn't believe Owen is who he says he is, so Owen has to go find another way into the park. So after doing a few puzzles and collecting various random items, Owen runs into Logan in an alleyway where he explains that he wasn't let into the crime scene. So Logan is like, oh my fucking god, Evans, that little loser, meet me back there, I'll walk you in. So they go back to the crime scene.
Good God.
And we meet Benjamin Ross, the father of the victim, who is standing there grieving. Evans tells Logan that he found a headband while he was investigating the crime scene. Of course, it's Olivia's headband, but now it has musical notes written on it, and as Leonard Bain is a musician, this evidence points to him being the killer. So Logan goes to wait for Owen at Leonard's house, and Owen talks to Benjamin. Upon talking to Benjamin, we find out that he plans to kill whoever is responsible for this murder, which is our first big instance of what parents are willing to do for their kids, right? Which is really cool. And he is such a cool character to me, and I love him, but we'll get into that more later. So Owen catches up with Logan at Leonard's house, but the door is locked, so they have to go in via a ladder to the balcony that leads into the study, where they find a weird cupboard that's absolutely full of yellow lotus flowers, which of course is damning evidence. So then we cut to day 3, the questioning of Leonard Bain. Dun dun dun. So he admits to writing music on Olivia's headband, but he says it was a way to cheer her up because she was having a terrible time after the breakup. And he says that the lotus flowers were planted and it's all Archie's fault. So Logan is like, but Archie has so much drip and swag, how could he possibly be bad? Surely you're not saying he's the killer, right? And Leonard is like, you guys are all dumb as fuck. He is the killer. Sure, I have no evidence, but he is, and you're all blind. You're all falling for it.
Are you all blind? Archie Thompson is taking every last one of you for a ride!
And then in the middle of the questioning, Evans shows up to report that there's been another victim, which proves that it isn't Leonard unless there's multiple killers. Dun dun dun. So the next day, we find out that the victim of this murder was Elizabeth Kirk, Jonathan's niece from earlier. Bruh. So Logan says that last night they did have Archie come in for questioning just to check, even though they were like, we're pretty sure Leonard's full of shit, but like we do have to check his claims, I guess. They had Archie come in, but Archie was playing poker with Jonathan on the night of the murder, so it couldn't possibly be him either. Unless there's multiple killers. Dun dun dun. After this, the next chapter begins, and we start fresh on a new map in a different part of town. Logan tells Owen he'll be at the crime scene, and that Charlotte and Archie are at the pub. So he tells Owen to inform them that they're all meant to meet at Jonathan's house to offer condolences shortly. And because Jonathan apparently has information about Elizabeth's disappearance, which is why Logan is going. Because Loki doesn't really give a fuck about anything but his investigation. Anyways, so Logan gets on the elevator. There's like an elevator platform thing because they're at like a fishing dock, and he gets on this thing and tries to go down it, but it gets stuck, and this results in another funny Logan soundbite.
Damn it.
So Owen goes into the pub across the street to break into their storeroom and steal some olive oil to lube up the elevator with. But before this, he talks with Archie and Charlotte. And Charlotte tells Owen the story about these two lovers who were absolutely obsessed with each other, but the woman went missing. And then
despair ate at him until he too faded away into nothingness.
so she's like, I heard this story once, right? And it's like, okay, like, what the fuck? And then Archie tells Owen that Jonathan is so obsessed with gambling that he doesn't even have enough money to pay for Elizabeth's funeral. And he says that everyone, of course, will help him, but that he needs to do something about his gambling habits. And I just mentioned this because I thought that was so tragic. Like, the specific line of, like, he's so obsessed with gambling, he doesn't even have enough money to pay for his dead niece's funeral. Damn. Anyway, Archie also mentions that Leonard is still in jail for now until they can like really prove that it wasn't him. And he says that he knows Leonard has been saying he's the killer, but he again just blames this on Leonard's jealousy. And then Owen goes and steals the olive oil and lubes up the elevator, thus freeing Logan, who again tells him they should meet up at the crime scene. And once we get to the crime scene, someone screams from the heavens, "You will pay for what you've done!" And we get another funny Logan moment.
You're going to pay for everything you've done!
What the hell is going on?
And then Logan tells Owen that Jonathan apparently has information about the day Elizabeth went missing, so they should go to his house quickly. But on the way to Jonathan's house, Owen hears the same guy shouting threats from the heavens again, but we still have no idea who it is. So upon arrival to Jonathan's house, Jonathan says the information that he had was that before she went missing, Elizabeth told him that she saw something suspicious by the old railway tunnel that's not too far from their house. So Logan says he's gonna go wait for Owen there. So as you can see, this game is very follow Logan around core, like just a series of meeting Logan at places. And every time he goes and is like, "I'll wait for you there," he just stands around. Like, aren't you supposed to be a detective? You're just standing there waiting for me to do everything? Bro, come on. So anyways, Logan leaves, but Owen stays behind because, of course, Matilda, Charlotte, and Archie are also at Jonathan's house. So we talk to them all again. So Charlotte says some cryptic shit about how obvious things she never paid attention to before are starting to come together for her, which is like, the fuck? It actually took me like 3+ playthroughs of this game to realize what this means. There's a lot of stuff actually in this game, and I explain more of it later, but there's a lot of stuff specifically in this one, but kind of in Dorian Gray, that like isn't explained in the game itself, but then they reveal it in the developer interview, and it like adds so much important context, and I'm like, why was this not in the actual thing? So this is one of those things where it doesn't quite make sense unless you've seen the interview. So anyways, moving on. Matilda says that it's entirely Jonathan's fault that Elizabeth died, since he didn't report it, because apparently Elizabeth had a habit of like running away for weeks at a time, so Jonathan just didn't say anything. But Matilda is saying like he was too obsessed with poker to prevent the death of his niece. So she's fucking shady boots. She is fucking this iconic legendary bitch. Archie, though, pointedly disagrees with Matilda, saying that even if she's right, which she isn't, but even if she is, now is absolutely not the time to be bringing that shit up. So he's like, shut up, you hag. You fucking old bitch. Right? Which, this is a good time to mention that Archie has actually been the most compassionate person in the squad during this whole thing. Matilda is being Matilda. Charlotte has been nice, but mostly distracted. Logan has been purely analytical, and his mind is just focused on the investigation and not really on anybody else's feelings or whatever. And Owen is, of course, doing similar things because he's preoccupied with if his daughter is going to die in 30 days. And Leonard, of course, now he's behind bars, but he's actually been pretty nice too. He just has a short temper, so he's like evil or whatever for that reason. But Archie has been the one being like, this is such a tough time, like we need to look out for our friends type shit. Like, for example, he noticed that Charlotte was taking everything very hard, and he said that she should rest. And also, again, he thinks Matilda's nuts for being such a bitch. So like, I don't know, I just think that's an interesting thing about Archie's character, that he's like the one guy that like seems to understand the other people's feelings the most. But anyway, so after talking to everyone again, Owen heads out to meet Logan at the abandoned train tunnel that Jonathan mentioned, and after another series of puzzles that Owen has to solve all by himself because Logan is just standing around, they go inside the tunnel, and the train starts up, and they almost get fucking run over. But the tunnel collapses, which prevents the train from hitting them, and they escape. So outside the tunnel, they find Jonathan, who, by the way, was standing right next to the train tracks and would have also been run over should the train have actually made it out of the tunnel. But he starts yelling He starts yelling at them about how they should be dead and whatever, and how they're the murderers, and this was supposed to be justice. But Owen is like, what the fuck are you talking about? Are you insane? And so we cut to day 7, the questioning of Jonathan Kirk. This fucking guy, I swear to God. So, as we know, he has a gambling problem, right? And is constantly broke. But he's been getting letters from this anonymous guardian angel for years, and this person supports him spiritually as well as financially, whatever the fuck spiritually means, I don't know. And this guardian angel apparently told Jonathan that Logan and Owen were the killers. So Jonathan told Benjamin Ross, the local doctor and father of the victim from earlier, who only wants revenge for his son, right? So he helped Jonathan try to kill both of them, and he was the guy that was in the tunnel driving the train. And the way that this anonymous guardian angel convinced Jonathan that Logan and Owen were the killers was because 1, a detective job is the perfect cover-up for a murderer, and 2, how else would nobody have figured out who it was yet? So, bitch, like... Anyway, Jonathan also admits that the story about Elizabeth seeing something sussy in the tunnel was completely a lie. He just needed to get them to go there so he could try to run them over with a train. Right. The big moment that we're all here for, actually, is that at the end of this questioning, we get the Jaden reveal, which is to say it's the first time in the whole game that Logan calls Jaden by his first name instead of calling him Evans. So we actually didn't know that his first name was Jaden until just now. But for the rest of the game, he's Jaden instead of being Evans. So maybe somehow during this whole thing, Logan and Jaden are getting closer as pals. Food for thought. So anyways, now they're hunting down Benjamin Ross and simultaneously trying to figure out who this anonymous guardian angel is. And then suddenly we skip all the way to day 24, which means we now only have 6 days left to save Olivia before she fucking dies. Day 24 starts with Owen going to Logan's office, telling him about a threatening letter that he received. And Logan is like, yeah, I got one too. And so did Charlotte and Matilda and Jonathan and Archie and Leonard and Benjamin and even Jaden. So the letter is telling all of them to be at Chinatown today at noon, or their loved ones will be killed. Right. But actually, they still haven't found Benjamin Ross, so they've been unable to question him. They only know that Leonard and Benjamin got these letters because they checked their houses, I think. And Jonathan too. I think Leonard and Jonathan are in jail at this point, and Benjamin is just, like, on the loose somewhere, I think. Point being, everyone has letters and they need to pull up to Chinatown. So they pull up. And Logan goes, of course, to wait for Owen at the crime scene as per usual. And Jaden stands there, and if you click on him, he says that the letter scared him, but he's got no doubt that Logan will crack the case. So he's Logan's biggest fan, and I find that kind of cute. Also, by the way, there was another crime. There was another murder. Forgot to mention. So, after solving another series of puzzles all by himself, Owen finally gets to the crime scene. And this victim, is some guy that nobody knows. All they know is that he was a calligrapher and he had not been missing for 30 days. So now everyone is getting worried because the killer is breaking his pattern, so nobody knows what's going to happen next. Also, all of the Chinatown locals are completely gone and the place is deserted except for like 2 people staffing the hotel. So Logan heads to the hotel to question everybody there. Charlotte, Matilda, and Archie are also at the hotel, so Logan is going to question them again too and see if they saw anything or whatever. And when Owen gets back to the hotel, he walks in on Logan questioning Matilda and Charlotte, who are sitting in the lobby, right? And Matilda is like bitching at Logan for asking the same questions over and over again, and she's like, don't you think we're tired? And Charlotte is just completely zoned out, not even listening. And Logan is like, yeah, bitch, it's my job to keep asking you shit, even if you're tired and offended. Like, the investigation comes first, so like, And then he's like, what a fucking waste of time. And he tells Owen that he's gonna go wait for him back at the crime scene again. So Owen is left to walk around and solve puzzles alone again, as per usual. So, of course, first thing he does is talk to everybody in the hotel. And upon talking to Charlotte, she mentions that story again, the one about the lovers that were doomed and shit. And she says it's been haunting her and she keeps seeing vague hints of memories, which this is even more confusing than the line earlier where she was like, things are starting to come together. This line is genuinely never explained even a little bit in the game itself, but it's completely explained in the dev interview. And like, I was so confused. Like, I kind of missed it the first time. And then I rewatched this and rewatched the dev interview and I was like, oh, like, what the fuck? None of that comes across at all in the game. Anyways, we'll get there. If you talk to Matilda, she says some shit about how Charlotte is, like, being crazy right now and she needs to, like, get her shit together because she's a lady and ladies don't act like this. Insanity. And then Owen goes up to Archie's room and they have a conversation about how Archie would rather be at home writing, but he's stuck here just like waiting for some unknown thing to happen. And Owen is like, why did you even come here? You don't have any family that could be killed anyway. And Archie is like, well, I may not have family, but I do have friends and I don't want to see them dead. And he also tells Owen that he should get some rest if he wants to find Olivia because he needs to like have his full energy and like full brain power and stuff. And then Owen is like, thanks, man. And then Archie talks about how he prays that Olivia turns up safe and that he's worried about Charlotte and how absent-minded she's been lately, so he's gonna look after her himself, and like basically just more examples of Archie being the most empathetic guy in the group. So Owen leaves the hotel and he hears that same voice from before, who we now know is Benjamin Ross, yelling something about how they should go check the sewer canals.
I think
You should go to the old sewer canals!
So Logan and Owen just go there. Logan has this thing where every single time someone tells him, oh, you should go to this location, Owen will go, that's probably a trap. And Logan goes, I know, but we have to check it out. And it's like, you're gonna die. Like, you're gonna get killed. What are you fucking talking about? But he just does it every time. So they pull up to the sewer canals, and on the way there, Owen hears Dr. Ross again, but this time he's telling them to go to the fisherman's house, which is through the sewer canals for some reason, so they're still headed to the sewers. And when they get there, Owen, of course, has to figure out several more puzzles before they can actually get through to the fisherman's house. But the second that they do get to the fisherman's house, they hear an explosion from the direction of the hotel.
Let's go in.
So they immediately rush back to check on everyone. Sure enough, the hotel is burning down. Jaden and Matilda are standing outside watching the fire, and Matilda informs Logan that Benjamin Ross showed up to talk to Charlotte and they left together. So Matilda followed them because she thought it was weird, but the second she got outside, the hotel exploded and she heard Archie burning alive in his room. So Logan is like, oh my god, I'm such an idiot. And he tells Owen, like, I gotta go, I'm gonna go take care of everything. Which, like, I don't really know what that means, but whatever. So Owen is then once again left to do miscellaneous puzzles. And next time Owen runs into Logan, it's in front of Charlotte, who is actively dying on the floor. And Logan, as they enter the room, sees the perpetrator running out of the room from the opposite side. There's like a door, other side of the room. So he chases after this guy, and suddenly Benjamin Ross comes running in from the same direction that the perpetrator just ran out, and he kneels down next to Charlotte and he says, "You knew, didn't you? How did he do this to you?" And then Charlotte, as she's dying, explains that he told her she could either become an exhibit or die like this, and she didn't want to be a stage prop. And Benjamin says that he knew he shouldn't have left her alone, but he was hoping the killer died in that fire. And Owen is like, hey, does someone want to tell me what the fuck we're talking about? So Charlotte and Benjamin explain that Archie is the killer and he's gonna kill all the rest of his prisoners tonight. But Owen is like, he just died in a fire. Like, what are you talking about? So at this moment, Logan comes running back in and confirms that the guy running away was Archie, but that he got away before Logan could catch up. So Logan places Benjamin under arrest, of course, for the trainification incident, and they all get in a carriage to head to Archie's mansion immediately. So in the carriage, on the way to Archie's place, Benjamin explains that he originally did believe Jonathan when he said Jonathan and Owen. What? When he said Logan and Owen were the killers. Also, dude, it's a lot of reading for me to do, and there's a lot of names, so just forgive me as fuck if I have messed up several names. So sorry. Anyway, he believed Jonathan when he said Logan and Owen were the killers, but after the train incident, he started his own investigation and he found out that Archie was Jonathan's secret guardian angel via finding a letter in Archie's bag that was addressed to Jonathan, and it sounded like the same kind of shit that the guardian angel says, which means Archie is the killer and he was just trying to shift blame to buy himself more time. So Benjamin knew that just one letter wasn't enough to fully prove that Archie was the murderer, so he got in touch with Leonard, who, as we recall, is the resident Archie hater and one of the several people who have been arrested for various shenanigans throughout the story thus far. And Logan asks why Ben didn't just tell them about the letter and whatever in the first place, and Ben is like, well, I'm not going to prison before I can kill Archie myself, so I wasn't going to contact you. So Benjamin continues his story. He broke Leonard out of prison this morning, and they worked together to figure out the hotel explosion, which actually was originally Archie's plan. So Archie intended to blow up the hotel to get rid of this whole group at once and stage his own death so nobody would ever catch him, but Benjamin and Leonard found out about this, so they tried to figure out a way to get everyone out of the hotel but keep Archie trapped there, so he was the only one that actually died. So this means Benjamin yelling to Logan and Owen about the sewers was his way to get them out of the hotel so they'd be safe, and similarly with Benjamin bringing Charlotte out, followed by Matilda. But unfortunately, when Leonard went into Archie's room shortly before the explosion to make sure he was like sedated or whatever, Archie got the upper hand, and it was actually Leonard who burned alive in the hotel. Rest in peace, dude. I will miss him every day. Benjamin also drops a fucking bomb on us about Leonard, which is that he actually was in love with Olivia. So the whole writing music on the headband thing was actually like a romantic gesture, and he was genuinely trying to cheer her up. And the reason he was acting suspicious near the fountain, which remember, like Charlotte mentioned, he was acting weird, and like, but that fountain at the park is where the body of Benjamin's kid ended up. But the reason he was being weird was because he actually had bought Olivia a ring and hid it in that fountain not long before the body showed up. So he's like the unluckiest fucking guy ever, and now he's dead, burned alive in a fucking hotel fire. Yikes. Also, Benjamin tells us the random lore about the dead calligrapher guy. So he apparently was a guy that Archie had hired to write all of the letters. So this guy apparently didn't know any English. So Archie basically went to this dude and was like, can you write all of this in your handwriting? And the guy just did it. And like, I'm assuming Archie did this so that he wouldn't, like, the letters couldn't get traced back to him by his handwriting. But the reason he killed the guy was because he wasn't 100% sure the guy didn't know any English. So he was like, just on the off chance that this dude knows what I've been saying this whole time, I have to kill him. The fuck? So in response to this information, we get another funny Logan moment.
Everything's going to hell.
Love him. Love him. The last thing that Benjamin tells them on the carriage ride over is that the story Charlotte used to tell about the lovers was actually about Archie. So this is where I will explain the context that we get in the developer interview. So apparently there was actually 2 stories that Charlotte had heard, but she only knew one of them was about Archie. So the first story she heard from her husband, which was about Archie taking a breakup so hard that he locked himself in a cellar for 30 days, but then her husband died and she totally forgot about the story. So this is what she was talking about when she said she was getting flashes of vague memories. It was memories of her dead husband telling her this story about Archie. And then the other story, which is the one she actually tells us in the game, she heard it from another person, like, in passing on accident. The story about the 2 lovers that were so obsessed with each other, but the woman died and the man faded into nothingness. So eventually she put 2 and 2 together and realized that those were both about Archie, and that makes him the killer because he was heartbroken and the whole 30 days thing, like, it just all makes sense. Also, this is the only context we get for the 30 days thing, which is like a big part of the game. Like, when you open the game, there's a little loading screen that's like a calendar counting down from 30 days. Like, that's a significant part of the lore and a significant part of the game, and they just don't explain it. They do have a reason for the 30 days thing, but it's just not explained in the game itself. You have to have the collector's edition and watch the fucking dev interview. So yeah, that's why Archie locks his victims in his basement for 30 days, because that's what he did to himself. So he locks them in a cellar, just like he did with himself, and then he sets their broken hearts free by killing them, right? So the reason that Charlotte had been getting more and more mentally ill, and the reason that she said that vague shit about things becoming clearer that she didn't pay attention to before, was because she was realizing that Archie was the killer, but right after she told all of this to Benjamin, Archie killed her. So, I mean, at least she got the information to somebody who needed to hear it, but like, bruh, rest in peace, what the fuck. So after this lore dump from Benjamin, they finally get to Archie's house. But Benjamin has to stay handcuffed in that carriage because, of course, first of all, he's literally under arrest, and second of all, he will try to murder Archie. So this, of course, means that Jaden has to stand by and watch Benjamin to make sure he doesn't escape. And then Logan and Owen are gonna find a way in to Archie's house and hopefully save the lives of everybody that's currently in there. So, inside the house, Owen is once again doing all the puzzles and finding all the clues while Logan is standing around waiting. Also, the amount of times that Logan says hurry up in this game is absurd. Like, what are you talking about, hurry up? I'm doing the whole thing, bitch. It'd be a lot fucking faster if maybe both of us did the puzzles. The fuck? So Owen does 1 million more puzzles, and they are trying to get into the cellar because that is where all the victims probably are. So, you know, several puzzles later, they finally get down there, but as soon as they do, these fuck-ass big pipes that run through the whole house start spraying toxic gas. So now they have to save everyone, but faster, with more tension, okay? So Logan is like, we need to go back up to the study, like there's something weird in there. So he goes to wait for Owen in there again, and when Owen catches up, Logan is like, there should be a secret compartment in here somewhere. Why the fuck does he know that? Like, I honestly spent this whole game thinking Logan would be a twist villain because he just knows shit sometimes. That's like, why the fuck would he know that? But they explain it away with like one random Logan comment about how he sometimes thinks he isn't even that smart, and his intuition just leads to him figuring things out on accident, which definitely seems to be true, but I really thought it was a setup for a twist villain, which would have been kind of sick. But anyways, after a couple more puzzles, of course, solved by Owen, duh, they finally make it to Archie's secret lair. One big thing I'll note here that's never actually really addressed in the dialogue is that in this room, there's a bunch of embalmed human hearts on the wall, arranged in the shape of a heart, right? It's like a pixel heart made out of square holes in the wall, and each hole has a thing in it with a heart. I mean, you can see it. You're fucking looking at it, but like, shut up. And there's only one empty spot left. But the relevant part for later is just that this is an art piece made of embalmed human body parts, and that Archie is the original doer. And to be honest, you can't outdo the doer. Anyways, Logan is like, yo, Archie, like, come out nice and easy, like, just whatever, come to the station, right? But Archie threatens to flip the switch on the wall, which apparently will kill everyone in the building via poison gas. And then he goes on this monologue about how he's always been a man of the arts, and everything he does it because he believes in it. But the things that he's been doing lately aren't things he believes in. They're just things he had to do to stay out of prison and stay alive. So I think he's talking about like the calligrapher and the hotel explosion and stuff, but not his Lonely Hearts murders. So he then talks about how everyone pretends to be independent, but what good is doing anything if there's no one there to see it? And he says, all the world's a stage. Why can't an actor play himself? Which is actually another kind of thing that I totally forgot to mention about, like, that's similar with Oscar and Archie. This is one of those moments that you'll probably only understand if you watch the video twice, because I'm gonna forget to mention this at the end for sure. But Oscar has the same thing of, like, the world is full of hypocritical masks, and like, if you try to be your genuine self, everyone thinks that you suck. So like, Archie's kind of doing that vibe right now, which is really sick, personally. Anyways, he says he wants a different kind of fame before he dies, and that he's dedicated his life to setting broken hearts free, because he himself has been living with a broken heart for a long time now. And then he goes to stab himself in the heart, but before he can, Benjamin Ross runs in with a gun and yells,
You'll die like a dog!
and Archie just fucking falls over. Dies, dude. Jaden comes running in right behind Benjamin, and Logan is like, what the fuck, dude? And Jaden is like, dude, everything happened so fast, man. I'm sorry. So they tell Jaden to turn off the gas, and he goes and pulls that same lever that Archie was just threatening to pull, which, like, really specific nitpick, but like, shouldn't that have killed everyone? But it didn't. It shut off the gas. I don't know. Maybe it can be explained away by, like, if you would have moved the lever the rest of the way up, it would have turned the gas higher, but if you moved it down, it shut it off. I don't know. But I was fully convinced that Jaden was gonna run over there and accidentally kill everyone, but that's not what ended up happening. But it would have been kind of a funny gag. A funny Jaden moment. Top 10 Jaden moments. Anyways, so Benjamin gets arrested again, and Logan is like, dude, you're like gonna spend the rest of your life in prison. Like, you just killed a guy for real. And Benjamin is like, I have nothing to lose anymore. My only son is dead. So he's tragic as fuck. He is big tragic. He talked earlier about how, like, there's nothing worse than losing your child. So yeah, he's like, literally just fuck it. Like, I don't know. Like, my kid died. Like, I'm just an old guy. Like, what the fuck is left now? Nothing. Ain't shit. Anyway, so Owen goes to rescue Olivia, which is like the whole point of this whole thing. And all we get is a completely silent cutscene where he goes into her cell and then they hug, but that's it. No words spoken at all. Olivia has 0 lines the entire game. The fuck is up with that? It, like, honestly, it sucks. Like, it pisses me off. Like, they could have just not had Olivia at all. I mean, like, it feeds into the theme of, like, what would parents do for their children, you know, because Owen goes this far to, like, save Olivia. But, like, at least give her a personality. Give her one line, something. Show us, like, something about Owen and Olivia's relationship. Show us literally anything about her character at all. But no. In fucking Dorian Gray syndrome, Anna, the one that's kidnapped that the main character is going to save, she's like a slayer. She has lines the whole goddamn game. So, like, hello? Olivia Flop? Flop Olivia? L Olivia? What the fuck? Anyway, you may be wondering, at this point, if Archie was trying to use his own heart as the last one he needed for the display, how the fuck was his heart supposed to get into the jar? Well, good thing we have a post-credit scene to answer that question. The post-credit scene isn't actually post-credits, lol, but it's basically, you know, it's the same kind of vibe, so just, like, shut the fuck up and leave me the fuck alone. Anyways, it's just like a 2-second shot of Matilda standing over Archie's grave, and she says, "You will live forever, my son." Dun dun dun! Big reveal? Archie is Matilda's son? What the fuck? So good thing we have the bonus chapter to expand on this lore. So, let's get into the bonus chapter, in which you play as Logan, which is cool and fun. So the plot of the bonus chapter is that Archie's grave has been dug up and the body has been stolen. So Logan and Jaden have to get to the bottom of it. So Jaden tells Logan that he was going through the records of everyone connected to Archie, and he discovered that he was the illegitimate son of Matilda. So Jaden took out a search warrant, searched Matilda's house, and found that Matilda actually played a hand in every single thing that Archie did, and even attempted to cover for him. So all those times that she was queening out, you know, talking about Charlotte's family symbol being the yellow lotus and blaming Elizabeth's death on Jonathan and getting mad at Logan for questioning them and whatever, it was all an attempt to bring focus away from Archie, which is so hilarious. But the thing is, her mansion is completely empty. I almost said apartment, which is the opposite of a mansion. So her mansion is completely empty, and like she is rich, like she is like has servants in her house type of rich, but there's literally nobody there. But Logan randomly remembers that her family has an estate in Scotland. So he's like, we need to leave right now. No police detail, no search warrant, just you and me, Jaden. Let's get in the carriage and go right now. And Jaden is like, right now? Like, we're not telling anybody? And Logan is like, correct. And then we cut to them just being at, why does he do this? Like, it's insane. Anyways, they get to the edge of this estate, which, by the way, is an entire village. It's like a whole-ass small village. But they get to the outskirts of the small village, and then Logan says, something bad is brewing here. And Jaden is like, a brewery? I wouldn't mind going for a pint. And then we get this interaction.
Jaden, what's the matter with you? We're not here for beers. Pull yourself together, man.
Yes, sir.
Jaden stares at the tree and Logan starts looking around, and he goes into a little hut and he finds, guess what? A big ass jar full of embalming fluid with a human body inside of it. Oof. Oscar mention. That's my boy right there. That's my boy. He's not the dead one in the thing, but he's just, come on. This is where it gets crazy. JK, it's been crazy the whole time. Also, random thing, but as I was writing the script for this video, I was like scrolling on my phone and I follow the Taskmaster Instagram account. They just posted their new I mean, it's not new anymore at this point probably, but their teasers for the newest season. And tell me why they look like this. Tell me that's not Dorian Gray syndrome. Tell me that's not Lonely Hearts Murders bonus chapter Matilda's Mansion Core. That's the exact same shit. Even down to it's the exact same shade of green in the fucking liquid, and it's the fucking, like, same, like, copper fucking bronze bullshit ass metal shit. Like, it's the exact same jars. They bought Matilda's mansion and they reused the jars for Taskmaster. What do you mean? And there's like the old fucking clock looking thing, like, and what the hell, like, it's just, and the big ass pipes and the steam and stuff, that's literally giving Archie house. That's literally giving Archie cellar. Like, what? So I guess they're collabing. Back to the fucking story. So they start walking toward, they have to like cut down a tree and walk over this fucking crevice. It's not a crevice, it's a fucking, what the hell are they called? Ravine? Yeah, that one. Crevice. Shut the fuck. Anyway, so they're walking and Jaden randomly asks why Logan hasn't fired him since he's so bad at his job, which I only mentioned 2 instances of this, but like the whole game, there's like an ongoing gag that like Jaden's a fucking idiot. He can't do anything. And Logan is like, well, believe it or not, I used to be a dumb little piece of shit, garbage rat boy, piece of shit, stupid, dumb, idiot bitch, just like you, which is cute. So they're bonding and stuff, but there's like dead bodies in jars, so we gotta get back to it. We gotta lock the fuck back in. Come on, gang. So they get to the actual residential area of this small village, but everyone's gone, and they find another suspiciously human-sized jar, but this one is empty. So they continue on to the mansion where Matilda's family used to live, or like, that's not super explained, but I'm assuming it's like, because it's not Matilda's house, it's just a house that she now owns. And they describe it as belonging to her family, so I'm assuming like her parents used to live there or something. Or I don't know. And I guess it's not really relevant, but anyway. So of course the front door is fucking locked, so Logan has to solve several puzzles and find several items to get in. So, quick question on the topic of Logan solving puzzles. If he could do this the whole time, you know, solve puzzles, find the clues, find the solution, blah blah blah, why exactly was Owen doing literally fucking everything himself? Logan left the guy who was preemptively grieving the loss of his daughter to just do all the stuff. You know, maybe Logan, oh my god, maybe Logan is a fucking genius. Because if you think about it, if the roles were reversed and Logan just went, hey man, you just wait here, I'll get everything figured out and we'll be back at it, you know? and then Owen had to stand around, he would have probably driven himself crazy thinking about all the things that could possibly be happening to Olivia. Huh. You know, I'm back on Logan's side now. That's actually, he's kind of built different. That's kind of smart. Anyways, random tangent. Wow, that's kind of a breakthrough. I'm kind of smart for thinking that up. Anyway, Logan heads up this hill to this old, like, ruin, and he finds this big-ass metal door, and there's a lock, like an indented thing where you have to put an item to unlock the door. And guess what item you have to put in the door? Dun dun dun! Oscar's mask. And you guys, listen, you still don't know who Oscar is. You still don't know about his mask. Shut the fuck up, dude. Come on. Anyways, this next part is actually super fun and cool, and I had the absolute time of my life. While I was playing the bonus chapter, there was this part where you're picking up the key to Matilda's front door, and but there's another item in that frame that you can also grab, and if you happen to pick up that item at the same time that the animation is happening for the key, it glitches the key permanently out of existence, and the only way to get the key back is to restart the bonus chapter. But the only way to restart the bonus chapter is to play the entire game all over again from the very beginning. So I had to play the entire game all over again from the very beginning. Also, when I took that deep breath, I just realized that I haven't changed the turtle expression a single time in this whole video. So just, you know, I'm not gonna redo it. I'm just gonna not redo it. You know, I got too used to, like, live streaming. Whenever I live stream, hold on, which one? This one. Whenever I live stream, I just don't even worry about changing the expression, because I'm like, I'm not manually changing the expression every time I'm, like, saying a sentence, because then I have to know exactly which emotion I'm going to be trying to portray with each sentence as I say the sentences, and that's just crazy. But the funny part about this is I literally have a script, and, like, I know exactly what I'm about to be saying next and the emotion I'm going to be saying it with, so I could be doing, but I forgot, literally forgot. But just, god damn it, okay? Just, what? Oh, this one. I don't even know what I'm doing anymore, dude. Okay. Anyways, so I had to play the entire game all over again, and I did. I actually speedran the fuck out of it, but yeah. So I finally get the key, right? We finally get inside Matilda's house, and we find another jar with a dead body in it. Look at this. I'm doing the turtle emotions now. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Just... yeah. Okay. This is the first one that Jaden has actually seen himself, because he didn't follow Logan into that little hut when they got to this place. So Jaden, like, freaks the fuck out, which is really funny. And then they go into the next room and they find this skeleton that's been chemically processed, and it has a weird ass locked helmet on it. So Logan puts together a picture of the had to do it to him guy, and then he does more puzzles and finds more dead body jars, etc., until he finds the key for the helmet. And you're never gonna guess what's inside. Oscar's mask! Dun dun dun! So you may be wondering why Oscar's mask is here. The developer interview explains that this mask is a symbol for the madness and the pursuit of absolute art, but they don't actually explain why it was here, or, like, anything else about it. So I don't know who made it, or, like, why it was here, or how Oscar got a hold of it, or, like, I don't know at all. Like, did Matilda make it? Did Matilda decide, like, I'm gonna make a mask to be a symbol for the madness and the pursuit of absolute art? Probably definitely not. She might have made it, but, like, I don't think that was the intent. But why? What would she want a mask for? What would she need? I don't know. You know what? Maybe she made a mask just because, like, she couldn't get caught sneaking around helping Archie out. Maybe, like, whoever was actively doing the crime was, like, wearing the mask. So maybe, like, if Archie was the one that was gonna go commit the murder that night, he would wear it so he wouldn't get caught. And then, like, if Matilda was gonna go do something shady, she would wear it. And then, like, years later, Oscar picks it up. I don't know. This is all literally just bullshit. I'm just, like, making shit up because there's just no information about this. Anyway, so they go back to this fuck-ass big metal door in the ruins, and they put the mask in the fucking thing, and a trap door opens under Jaden, and he falls into a hole, which is really funny, but it's a hole, like, there's not spikes in it or anything. It's just a hole, roughly the height of just a human person. So he falls, like, a very safe survivable distance into a hole, and then a metal grate closes on top of him. So we just have, like, a temporary pet Jaden, and Logan has to save him and get him out of the hole. It's so random. But he fucking saves Jaden, and they go into the room, and then Matilda's in there sitting in the complete pitch fucking darkness like a creep. So they go in there, and Jaden is like, it's so dark in here. I can't see anything. And then Matilda answers back and she's like, let me light it up for you. And then the lights come on to reveal several dead bodies in human-sized jars full of embalming fluid, with Matilda sitting in a rocking chair like the old lady she is, right in the middle of the room, next to Archie's body in a fucking jar, front and center. Bruh. Bruh, bruh. Bruh, bruh, bruh.
Bruh. Bruh. Bruh, bruh.
I love this room. Like, the art of it, like the drawing. Bro. Sickening. It looks so fucking cool. Anyway, lol. So, Matilda has been killing all of the townspeople and all of her servants one by one as a way to perfect this art form. Like, she's practicing in order to make Archie's exhibit perfect so she can give him immortality and preserve his beauty forever. So, just love her. Love that. I love this woman. In some way, I think that all three of our villains have sort of a you can't outdo the doer. Like, they're all sort of their own doer, in a way, and none of them can really be outdone. But we'll get into that more later. I just love this story, dude. This game is so good. These games are so fucking good. Okay, anyway. So as Matilda is being arrested and walked out, she says that she's invented a new kind of art, and that there will be others that follow in her footsteps, and bitch, you know she's damn fucking right. We get to see the, like, imperfect beginnings of this technique, which I think is really cool. Like, if you look at all of Matilda's works scattered around the town, and, like, even the ones other than Archie, like, in that room at the end, they're all obviously less refined. Like, some of the first ones, you can't even really see the bodies in there. Like, it's just kind of cloudy liquid with, like, maybe a hand touching the glass or something. And then there's other ones where it's like you can see the bodies, but the pose is very, like, dead guy in a jar, and, like, there's no interesting costuming choices. There's no interesting, like, all the jars are the same thing. Like, but when Oscar does it, it's very, like, he's doing it. Like, it's art when he does it. And I hate to say that because it's dead people in jars, but come on. I see the vision, I do. Again, you guys don't know Oscar yet, but you will. You don't know about my best friend, but you will shortly. Another thing that I would like to mention before we move on is that all three of our villains throughout both of these games, Archie, Matilda, and Oscar, believe that they're setting people free by killing them and making them into art. And I just think that's a very cool idea. Also, I should point out that Matilda is the final and craziest example of this game's theme of how far parents are willing to go for their kids. So Owen went through hell to get his daughter Olivia back. Benjamin Ross killed Archie to avenge his son. And Matilda let Archie be a serial killer and then sort of carried on his legacy. So true, guys. That's parenting right there. That's parenting right there. Unconditional love, truly. Absolutely zero conditions. So that's it for the Lonely Hearts murders. On to the main event, Dorian Gray syndrome. Let's fucking go, bitch. Strap in. Okay, welcome to less low quality PNG background images. Yippee. And also welcome to I'm gonna remember to change the turtle expressions. Ooh, whoops. Okay, I'm so excited. I fucking love this game. And, like, I mean, this is the one that I've played more than once. Like, this is the one that I've played since I was a kid. So, like, I'm so excited. Okay, so let's get started. Let's get locked in. Guys, lock the fuck in. Moment of silence for lock in. Okay, so similarly to the Lonely Hearts murders, this game starts with a 3D animated cutscene. But unlike the Lonely Hearts murders, there's only like 4 of them in this entire game. There's some cutscenes kind of like the Logan walking around ones where like we see Oscar a few times, but like there's just not very much of it, but it's kind of cool that way, right? It makes you feel like, what the fuck is going on, you know? Anyway, so this cutscene is of our protagonist, Sam Wilde, watching a news report covering his column on the TV. Now you may be thinking, TV? What year is it? Well, let me tell you, my friend, this game takes place in 1950. Whoa, time jump. It also takes place in the UK, similar to the previous game, but this one is in a town called Welshire, which I think is fictional, because I googled it and nothing came up, but if it's not fictional, I'm gonna sound really fucking stupid. So, my bad. Anyways, Sam is a journalist, and he recently wrote a column on the local news, the newspaper, that is, about the local serial kidnapper who's been targeting quote-unquote beautiful young people. So his boss, Charlie, calls in the middle of this report that Sam is watching to congratulate him on the success of his recent article, but also to ask when he's going to have another one ready with more updates on the case, because obviously this has been making Charlie a lot of money. And Sam says that he's going to start on the next one tomorrow, but tonight he has a date with his girlfriend Anna. So we cut to Sam riding his motorcycle, okay, Mr. Cool Guy, to this place that he planned on meeting Anna, only to find a letter from the kidnapper telling him that she's been kidnapped and is being held at, I think it's called Gold Vale Manor, but it's Oscar's house. So he's like, pull up to my house, but like, don't tell the cops, because if I see a single sign of the authorities, I'm killing your girlfriend, and she's becoming another piece of art in my collection, right? So it's already giving Matilda Archie vibes. But actually, since this game came out first, Matilda and Archie were giving Oscar vibes. So maybe Archie can't outdo the doer. Who's the original doer? Nobody knows. And by the way, the kidnapper's name is Oscar. Lol. So that's confirmation on who the fuck that is. We will meet him shortly. Love of my life. You know, been with him since I was a kid. Anyways, so Sam gets to his house and he goes in through a window like a freak instead of just going in through the front door. And boy, let me tell you, this place is not my house, but I sure know my way around. So when he gets in there, Sam hears Oscar's voice over an intercom system.
I knew you wouldn't use the front door, Sam, but I'm still glad to see you. Go ahead, check out my home, admire my creations, but don't get carried away with all this beauty, because Anna is waiting for you. Right, Anna?
Sam, help me.
So this is where the part that you can control begins, so you can start picking up the clues and everything. And let me just tell you, this game has a beautiful, stunning, epic, amazing, show-stopping, beautiful, stunning, epic, and also amazing and show-stopping, and beautiful, stunning, and epic feature that the other game doesn't have. And that comes to us in the form of Sam's notebook, full of clues. You're kidding? Notebook full of clues? What the fuck? Several of these games, not the Lonely Hearts Murders, obviously, but like this one, and then I think both of the other two that I played religiously as a kid, like they had these notebooks, and it's like people, they would just tape shit in and then write about it. Like it just, they look so cool. They're so like maximalist, like creepy, like, I don't know. I loved them. I was obsessed. It like changed the brain chemistry of my brain as a child. It was so awesome. And I still want one to this day. I need to recreate Sam's notebook in real life. But there's also a tape recorder in the notebook. How do you fit a tape recorder in a notebook? Like, it's like, what do you mean? So we're gonna just ignore that. But like, the rest of it's cool, and I want the rest of it. I think the reason, not that it matters, but I think the reason the Lonely Hearts Murders doesn't have this is because, first of all, Owen is fully voiced, but Sam isn't. Which, like, Owen... like Sam does have a voice actor, so it's not like it was impossible for them to voice him. Maybe they just didn't because they had the notebook, and then I don't know, but like, so that maybe isn't actually a reason, but it could be. But also Owen had like a companion the entire time and like didn't have a reason. Like Sam has no reason to be talking out loud to himself in Oscar's house, you know what I mean? So it does make more sense that he would just be writing shit down, and he's literally a journalist, so it like makes sense that he would have a notebook and maybe Owen wouldn't. But at the same time, it would make sense for Owen to have a notebook because he's a detective. Come on, give Owen a notebook 2025. What are we doing? Anyway, to get a taste of the vibe of these, the first entry says, "This lunatic has my Anna in his power, somewhere. I can't bear the thought of what he could do to her. I need to do something, now." Also, oh my god, almost forgot, but the haunting portrait in the corner of this game this time isn't actually haunting, it's actually a serve. Anna looks great, and Olivia looked like shit. And I think it's a fun detail that the main character of these games always keeps a locket of the person that they're doing it all for with them as a reminder to fucking clock in for their shift at the lock-in factory. Another fun detail about this game compared to the Lonely Hearts Murders is that we have canon confirmation that Oscar set up all these puzzles himself, which is cool. It's kind of giving Saw 2 specifically. But in the Lonely Hearts Murders, there's never like any mention of anyone setting anything up, I don't think, other than maybe at the end at Archie's house. But like everything else around town, it's like, what do you want me to assume, that you just live in a town full of riddles? You want me to assume you live in a town built on puzzles and finding hidden objects? But that is the game genre, so I guess we have to suspend our disbelief. So after Sam solves a couple more puzzles, Oscar introduces himself over the intercom, and he tells Sam to remember his name, as Oscar remembered his. But then he says, "Actually, Anna helped me with that, a little bit against her will." right? Bitch, don't fucking lie. You knew the guy's name, otherwise how would you know to kidnap his girlfriend? You fucking little piece of shit. So obviously he's just saying shit about Anna being in danger to like rile Sam up and try to make him go nuts. But it's not really working. It kind of is, but like Sam keeps his head on and keeps his head on straight. Send help. Anyway, a few more puzzles later, Sam continues down this hallway that he's climbed up into the next room, and he discovers the first piece of art in Oscar's house. This one is my favorite in the whole game. It's just so good, and it's the one that stuck with me the most, probably because it was the first one I ever saw, obviously, but like, also it's just so good. It's called Icarus, and it's a guy in an embalming fluid tank, which like they're all guys in embalming fluid tanks, but like this one is like a big flat, like rectangular thing, and it's attached to the ceiling, and he's posed like he's flying with wings attached to his back, like Icarus. What the fuck? I want to be just like him when I die. Oscar, you can pick me up whenever you want, whenever you're free. I'll clear my schedule. Let me know. Or don't. I'm cool with either thing. Anyway, the first thing Oscar says over the intercom when Sam sees Icarus is, "Isn't he beautiful?" Okay, you're fucking gay. Okay, queer representation. Oscar also says that it's unfortunate that he's the only artist that creates like this because it means no one can appreciate his gift, which I think is a pretty cool detail about Oscar's character because usually villains like this want to be the only one in their field, you know? And they think nobody could ever reach their level anyway, so they're like, all these other bitches, they want to be me so bad. But Oscar is like, God, just, can someone try to be me already? I'm getting fucking bored out here, you know? He also describes his art as giving these beautiful people immortality, which is exactly what Matilda was doing with Archie. So this may be something that Oscar picked up from reading her memoirs, which I think would be really cool. But there's never any actual mention of Oscar reading Matilda's memoirs in this game because, like, or the other game, but obviously not in this game because Matilda didn't exist yet. She hadn't been written in. So, you know, but I just like to imagine. Which also, this is a good time to remind everyone that Matilda is Oscar's great aunt. So just keep that in mind. Another interesting thing, by the way, about Icarus is that he's one of the only two exhibits in Oscar's house that seemingly have nothing to do with Oscar himself. All the rest of them have explanations that tie in directly to Oscar, but Icarus and one of the other ones that we'll get to later just have zero explanation whatsoever. And I think it's kind of crazy. Like, it's cool though, because it's like, what's the deal with this? But it's like not really explained. Anyways, so Sam takes a picture of Icarus and he tapes it into his beautiful notebook full of clues. And he writes a note about how fucked up this is. And then he locks the fuck in and continues his journey to save Anna. In one of the nearby rooms, Sam finds a note that was written allegedly by a Gerald John, I don't fucking care, that was apparently an MD. And this note describes Oscar's mental conditions, I guess they're medical too, but his mental conditions. So apparently Oscar is fresh out of the mental hospital, or maybe not fresh, but he was in the mental hospital at some point, and nobody really knows how he got out, or if he was ever even actually there, but we'll get to that later. So this Gerald guy describes that Oscar feels anger and depression due to his age, and he's obsessed with his lost youth and thinks that aging is terrible. And he also apparently has times of severe mania followed by deep depression. This note also mentions that he's become obsessed with Dorian Gray, so the doc says in the note this could be described as a type of Dorian Gray syndrome. He said the fucking line, he said the thing, oh my fucking god, it's the fucking, do the roar. The doc also notes that Oscar is a master manipulator and has been studying embalming and human anatomy. And he diagnoses Oscar with manic depressive psychosis with paranoia. So a couple things. First of all, Dorian Gray syndrome is a real thing in real life, and it's what this entire character was based around, according to this game's unlockable developer interview. So apparently they wanted to create a game where the hero would constantly be under stress, so they started looking into interesting psychological disorders that they could give to the villain, and they found Dorian Gray syndrome, which is described as a man who has extreme pride in his young appearance and therefore hates aging, with other symptoms including narcissistic traits, body dysmorphia, and the inability to mature, with the diagnostic criteria allegedly being signs of dysmorphia, arrested development, which is the inability to mature, and use of at least 2 different cosmetic medical treatments, such as hair growth restoration, weight loss treatments, cosmetic surgeries, and even antidepressants, which is like a crazy one that does not seem to fit in that fucking genre. Like, one of these things is not like the others. What the hell? Also want to mention, I have not read The Picture of Dorian Gray, which of course the syndrome is named after, and there's like kind of references to in this game. But since I haven't read it, I can't really point out or analyze any connections that this game might have to the book. But I have to assume that there's something other than just Oscar's name and like whatever, which is cool. So just, you know, if you've read the book, yippee. Maybe someday I'll be mentally ill about this game to the degree where I will have to read The Picture of Dorian Gray. Isn't that so fun to imagine? Me reading? Couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. The one thing though that I can point out, and that I will point out, is that Oscar's name is Oscar and Sam's last name is Wilde, which I think is really cool because of course, Oscar Wilde is the name of the author who wrote The Picture of Dorian Gray, but them both having parts of his name, like, connects them in a really interesting way. And it makes them seem like they have something big in common, right? And I just think that's really cool. I don't know if they did that on purpose to, like, connect them or anything, but I love thinking about that. Very fun. Anyways, back to the actual fucking plot. So in the next room, Sam comes face to face with Oscar for the first time, but he's unable to attack him because Oscar is on the other side of a tunnel that's rigged with a fucking flamethrower trap. Hello? It's giving actual Saw. Oscar is like, I always give people a chance. And then he tells Sam a random combination that ends up being the solution to a nearby puzzle, and then he leaves via an elevator at the end of the hallway. I just realized when I said it's giving actual Saw, and then I said the part about Oscar saying, I always give people a chance, it is giving actual Saw, it's giving literally Jigsaw. But I think I definitely played this game before I watched Saw, and I wonder if this game is the reason I liked the Saw franchise so much. But then what's the reason that I liked this game so much? I don't know. I think I'm just weird. I don't know. I actually have no fucking... I think about this all the time. This is like so not really related, but I think often about like what about me or my childhood made me like predisposed to enjoying creepy things, because as far back as I can remember, I was always a fan of the villains. I was always a fan of creepy shit. I was always a fan of horror. Like the whole thing. But I can't think of a time that was like taught to me or like anything. So was it just something I was born with for some reason? I was like, yeah, the villains are cool, you know? And like not even just villains, like there's some explanations of like a lot of villains are queer coded, and sometimes you know like from a young age that you're queer, but it's just like a subconscious thing. It's not even that, because it was like, it's not even just like, oh, I liked fucking Disney villains. It's like, no, I was a big fan of like the monsters in Scooby-Doo. You know what I mean? I was a fan of like, just, I don't know. Also, need to mention, Oscar is wearing that mask from Matilda's house, and he wears that mask for the entire rest of the game. We never get to see his face, and nobody ever even mentions that he has a face. It's actually kind of awesome. Like, we don't need to know what he looks like, and clearly he doesn't want us to know because he thinks he's like old and ugly now, but it's just like you never see a masked character where like them revealing their face isn't part of the thing, you know? Anybody who's faceless to any degree, whether they're fictional or real, it's always like a big part of the appeal of like eventually you'll get to see their face. But this one, it's like nobody even teases it. Like it's never once mentioned or shown in any capacity, which I think is cool. Anyways, after some heavy breathing, some stressful moments, which Sam will be doing and having a lot in the rest of this game, he writes another note in his beautiful, fantastic notebook about how Oscar is unpredictable and he doesn't understand why Oscar is keeping him alive. So I have a fan theory. This part is kind of rough. I realize I keep getting off topic, but it's okay. It's worth. We'll get back to the plot in a second. So my fan theory as to why Oscar is keeping Sam alive, which like, it's like half disproven by the end of the game, but just let a guy dream, okay? I think part of the reason Oscar brought Sam here in the first place is because obviously he can't let Sam keep writing shit about him in the local news if he doesn't want to end up in prison. But the other thing, and the reason I think he's keeping Sam alive, is because I think he sees a bit of himself in Sam. Nobody who has nothing in common with Oscar would see the connecting line between his victims as being they're all beautiful young people. A normal person would look at all these people and think that the kidnappings are happening at random. So we find out later that Sam's article also talks about Oscar blending in well with the people around him, and that he's like rich and well educated and stuff, which I think is something that Oscar has tried hard to achieve on purpose. So of course Oscar would read Sam's article and be a little bit flattered, and maybe see a like-minded soul in the author. So maybe he makes Sam go through this whole house and read all those notes about him as a way to be like, Maybe Sam will see the beauty in my work and join me. But then, spoiler alert, Sam does not do that. So in the next room, Sam finds a copy of his own article laying on the floor. So we get to see what the article actually says. So I'm going to read a part of it here because it adds context to that theory that I was just talking about, but also because, oh my fucking god, Sam is insane. So it says, officials go everywhere and never notice things that are obvious to me. Study the photos of all the missing in Welshire and you'll see that they're all young and beautiful. They all have a charisma and an inner energy that shows even through frozen photographs. Such beautiful people do not hide. They are always in the spotlight. The person responsible must move in the same circles. Rich, highly educated, firm of conviction. Look around. Maybe it's your neighbor or a business partner who invited you to his mansion for a charity dinner. This criminal is like a chameleon, changing to fit his surroundings. Squidward, you crazy bitch. If I read this article, especially that shit about the victims and how Sam seems to be hyping Oscar up by saying he's educated, rich, and firm of conviction, I would think Sam is the fucking killer. Hello? So I'm sure Oscar saw this too and was like, yo, this guy fucking gets it. He knows. Like, just, Sam is such a creature. I love him so much. He's so interesting. Okay, back to the actual plot. In the next room, Sam finds another note. This one appears to be written by Oscar when he was a child, and it says, my father locked me in a closet for several days until yesterday. He said that I had to learn how easy it is to lose your freedom. I hate him, hate him, hate him. One day I'll make him truly regret his cruelty. So Sam tapes this note into his notebook and writes, so Oscar's had a rough life. Haven't we all? That doesn't give him the right to kill. He said, fuck your dark, tragic past, gay boy. So Sam finishes a few more puzzles, and Oscar comes over the intercom to talk about masks, saying,
The whole world lies. A man once told me, Oscar, show them your face. They'll love you for yourself. Lies. This is a world of hypocritical masks, but the one who wears a real mask survives.
So I'm not really sure what he means by the one who wears a real mask survives, because girl, if you were on the streets wearing that fucking thing, people would be reporting you to authorities ASAP. It's literally covered in blood. But the part about everyone being hypocritical and him not being liked for who he is relatable as fuck and very autism coded to me, or perhaps just like mentally ill coded, because mentally ill people go through the same thing of maybe I'll just show people who I really am or like how I really think. And then people are always like, ew, oh my god, what the fuck, you're weird, ew, what, ew. So that's cool. Maybe my boy has autism. On second thought, also, when he said real masks, maybe he didn't literally mean real mask. Maybe he meant real as in he's pretending to be someone else on purpose, but everyone else is doing it for hypocritical reasons. Therefore, Oscar is doing it for real, but everyone else is for fakesies. I don't know. It's hard to tell because he literally wears a physical, actual, real mask for the entire game, so I don't really know which he's talking about. So Sam eventually gets the fire trap disabled after finding all these notes, and he heads into that elevator, which begins the section of the game where you have to repeatedly go up and down this elevator, and it has to do the full door closing and opening and all that shit animation every single time. Anyways, at the bottom of the elevator is actually the outside, which leads to Oscar's garage and the rest of the buildings on his property, which is extensive, of course, because he's rich. Or whatever. Or more like his family's rich. So Sam ends up having another run-in with Oscar in front of the garage, and Oscar asks if it's possible to love a person so much that you'd sacrifice your life for them, and then he says, doesn't matter, and leaves, and he collapses the path behind him so Sam can't follow him, so cue more heavy Sam breathing. He writes a note in his notebook that says Oscar is the scientist and Sam is the lab rat, but Sam's not going to play by Oscar's rules. Which is funny because for the rest of the game, Sam exclusively plays by Oscar's rules. But, you know, if you think about it, maybe Sam thinks he's playing by his own rules, but his rules are just so similar to Oscar's rules that it's actually the same thing. Maybe they should kiss. I mean, what? So after a few more puzzles, Sam enters the garage and finds the second art installation. So like I mentioned earlier, the rest of these victims have stories. So the story for this one is that once upon a time, Oscar had a girlfriend who he was madly in love with, which is Archie Core, might I add. But she cheated on him with his car mechanic. So the car mechanic is the dead guy in the garage. And this incident was what created Oscar's artistic genius, or so he calls it. And he says he asked himself what life was worth with no love in it, and realized that his life was to be dedicated to art. And then he asks Sam if he thinks that Anna has been true to him, and says that Sam will find out soon. So I think it's interesting that these people are simultaneously young, beautiful people that Oscar wanted to give immortality to, but also people that he hated and wanted to die. Like, he knows that he's killing people and that it's an evil thing to do, but he also deludes himself into thinking that it's giving them immortality. In the developer interview, they mentioned that Oscar is a mystery even to himself, and I think this is a good example of that, and just a cool thing to point out. I would also like to point out that this guy was one of the early ones, and he was stored in a traditional Matilda-esque cylindrical tube, unlike some of Oscar's later installations, which got more creative with it. He's also just in his regular clothes, and he's in a fuck-ass random pose. Like, he just fell into a pool and then died. But some of the later ones are very, like, in costume, posed up, etc. And I think it's so cool that you can kind of see Oscar's art improving, if you will, as the story goes on. Just, I don't know, more cool details. I think that the developers put so much thought into every single piece of everything in this game, and it really shows. So in Sam's note about this victim, he says, "What was that thing about finding out if Anna has been true to me? That sounds rotten." So I personally love the idea that Oscar somehow knew that Anna cheated or something, so he kidnapped her and put Sam in this situation so that Sam would become heartbroken in Oscar's house, surrounded by Oscar's art and all of Oscar's notes, which would then greatly increase the chances of Sam joining Oscar in his art. But in reality, I think Anna is perfectly fine and loyal, and Oscar is just trying to drive Sam nuts. But there's like a slightly different universe in which Sam and Oscar would have been evil together in a way that would be interesting to see. Anyways, so Sam enters the clock tower, the bottom of it, not the top part with the clock, because the ladder's broken. And he finds another note written by Oscar, and it says, "Today will be a wonderful day. In the next village is a sculptor who goes only by the name of Ruler," which, like, Jesus Christ. It says, "Ruler is a genius, and his statues seem alive. I dream about creating such beautiful works myself, and I will surpass my teacher. I feel it in my soul." So Sam's note in response to this says, "Oh, you've surpassed your teacher all right. Only I doubt he would have approved of your methods. Or maybe he too ended up embalmed in one of your jars." Which is so funny. And like, the first half of that sentence is definitely something Oscar would see and take it as a compliment. So, like, come on. Once Sam does find a way to fix the ladder and get up to the top of the clock tower, we're greeted by another victim, the watchmaker. And be fucking for real, he slays. He fucking slays. Like, bruh. I think he's my second favorite one. I'm trying to think of all the rest of the victims. I will say firmly, he's my second favorite one because he's the only other one that has a really interestingly shaped container. The rest of them are all Matilda-shaped tubes. Matilda-esque tube-shaped things. Anyway, and he just looks dope. I mean, come on. So when Sam finds this one, Oscar goes on this whole monologue about how he's always hated time, but now he's won over it. So to honor his victory, he made this piece. So I'm not sure what he means by that he won over time. Maybe just that embalming people gives them immortality, therefore freezing time. But he himself is still aging, and surely he knows that. So I'm not quite sure. And then Sam finishes a puzzle in the clock tower, and the intercom starts up again, but this time it's not Oscar, it's Anna that speaks. She tells Sam that she's trapped in a laboratory somewhere, and that Oscar has a whole camera system set up. And she tells Sam that she loves him, and then Oscar comes in and says, "I wanted so badly for us to be friends, but you weave webs behind my back and leave me no choice." And then he forces a pill into Anna's mouth or something that we can't see because it's only, like, audio, and then she swallows it. So Sam freaks out because he's like, "What the fuck did that guy do?" And then he locks back in. So Sam goes back inside and he opens a locked door, to which Oscar responds by coming over the intercom and saying, "I bet you're proud of yourself, but I've got many more things in store for you. Anna is about to appear on stage for her first act." Bitch, what the fuck does that mean? We'll find out shortly. So Sam goes into this greenhouse type area and he finds the next victim, who's actually Oscar's ex-girlfriend that cheated on him with the mechanic. So Oscar says, "I was incredibly happy, but she betrayed me. This is when I realized that only a frozen, beautiful sculpture can never hurt you, and pain is all that matters." He's so cringe-filled. He's like nobody HMU going dark, like Kaneki PFP middle school Twitter core. He's the best. I love him so much. So after some more puzzles, another run-in with Oscar, and even more puzzles, Sam goes into Oscar's old childhood nursery, and he finds yet another victim. So this guy was a storyteller that, according to Oscar, could reveal the miracles of the world with wondrous delight in his voice. But Oscar never had those miracles as a child because the world is cruel. So he embalmed this guy, I guess. I don't fucking know. So, a couple rooms later, Sam finds a note hidden behind a cracked mirror that Oscar wrote as a kid, and it describes Oscar's dad taking him hunting, but Oscar said he didn't like killing the animals, and he became scared that his dad would make him kill all of their pets, so he took it upon himself to find good homes for all of them, besides one, his pet snake, which he hid where his dad would never find it. This note references, ties back into what Matilda was saying about her nephew having a son and naming him Oscar and then going hunting with him. So that's a cool little Easter egg. Sam's notebook entry about this note, by the way, says, Oscar whining about his abusive father again. He's such a bitch. Several puzzles later, Sam disables a literal saw trap. Saw mention. Hello, Zep. Saw mention. Anyway, so he goes into the next room, and Anna makes her surprise debut, like Oscar was talking about. It's like this weird little fucked up radio show that Anna and Oscar put on. Anna, of course, participating against her will, so it's incredibly awkward and painful to listen to. But dude, let me fucking tell you, the voice actors do such a good job. I genuinely can't listen to this shit. It makes me cringe.
Darling, I'm home.
My dear, here you are at last.
So, they killed it. It's about a married couple and how happy they are with each other. So they're just kind of having a good grand old time, but this is just the first installment. So I'm sure nothing will go wrong at all whatsoever in the future. So of course, a few rooms later, we get the next installment. And in this one, Anna has decorated the Christmas tree while Oscar was at work, but Oscar gets upset that she didn't wait for him to put the star on top. So, looks like there's some cracks in the foundation of this relationship. And then in the kitchen, randomly, there's a puzzle that Sam has to put together that makes a picture of a little house. And afterwards, Oscar comes on the intercom just to say,
A real man builds a real house. Wimp.
what the fuck? He's hilarious. And then a few rooms later, Sam finds another victim, one of Oscar's old butlers. So Oscar explains that he began noticing that people he spoke to were treating him like they were doing him a service just by talking to him. And he even noticed this with his own servant, who he literally paid to serve him. So he was like, this guy's gonna fucking get killed. But he still decided to be generous and give him eternal life. So this is another autism-coded Oscar moment of noticing that people treat you fucking weird. So add that to the list, I guess. The list of literally 2, I think, but I'm sure if you went through this game just with the perspective of how many clues can I find that Oscar has autism, there'd be a lot of them. But these are the only 2 that I picked out specifically to mention in this video, So a few rooms later, another installment of Oscar's fucked up little radio show, in which Anna cooks all day trying to please Oscar, and then Oscar mistakes her cooking for dog food and feeds it to the dogs. No, what the heck, why would you do that? So after hearing this, Sam continues on and goes outside, a different outside than before, mind you, and he finds another item behind another fucking doohickey, and Oscar comes over the intercom to be like, and who invented all of these hiding places? Yes, that would be me. So that's our confirmation that he set this whole thing up, which is so funny, and he thinks he's cool for doing it, which is even funnier. And then Sam finds the next victim, the mermaid, who is another one of my favorites, because bitch, are you kidding? She's in a water fountain and she's literally a fucking mermaid. Stop it right now. Oscar's explanation for this one is the maiden that appears from the deep is seen as a miracle, but it's only another lie hidden behind a false promise. At first, I assumed that he had some sort of lore with this woman, that she also wronged him somehow personally, but honestly, based on later evidence, I kind of think he just hates women. Well, no, I definitely think he just hates women. So I kind of think that maybe this lady was he just saw her and he was like, well, she's young and beautiful and I hate women, so I'm gonna kill her. Yeah, that's kind of, anyway, yikers. So this one, it's kind of unexplained, but it's not unexplained in the Icarus way, because this one still ties into him and his something that happened in his life and his hatred of women, but Icarus was just what the fuck is that? I don't know. Anyway, so then Sam finds Oscar's wine cellar, which of course this fucking guy would have a wine cellar, and we get the final installment of the radio show, in which this married couple are now all out fighting. So afterwards, Oscar says, "You see, Sam, how fragile and pathetic marriage is. At first, everything is perfect, but later, only ruin remains." So he's trying to convince Sam not to marry Anna for some reason. Gay reason? I mean, what? Who said that? So Sam continues on into some sewer tunnels beneath Oscar's pool, because of course Oscar has sewer tunnels underneath his pool, I don't know. And he falls through the floor and almost drowns in nasty sewer water. But Oscar shows up just in time to save him, and he says, "You don't get to die that way, I have other plans for you," which is interesting. So then Sam goes back to the kitchen, goes into the freezer, like the walk-in freezer, and finds another victim, a lady frozen in another embalming tank. So the explanation for this one is just how, like, just Oscar talking about how women are so cold and they only show false warmth to fool men. So yeah, he's kind of just sexist. I don't know. Well, not kind of. It's very just sexist. Yikers. This guy would do numbers on Reddit. Hate to say it. Hate to do it to him, but he would. Sam's note in response to this one says, "Apparently the poor girl in this exhibit is meant to portray all women as callous and cold-hearted. Like a child who loses a playground fight, Oscar is throwing temper tantrums. Fucking get his ass, King. Get his ass." So Sam goes out to another different part of the yard where there's an observatory, and Oscar asks him over the intercom if Sam thinks that art is part of eternity, part of infinity. And Sam, of course, doesn't respond, but this is more fuel for my theory that Oscar is trying to test Sam and see if they have, like, similar points of view on art and the world and stuff. And then Sam finds another note written by Oscar that says, "Thick black clouds and the whole world is against me. I have to meet it head on. Tonight is payback. Everyone who was against me will pay in full." For some reason, that note, I love that note. Like, the sentence, "thick black clouds and the whole world is against me," I just love that sentence for some reason. So every time I pick up this note in the game, I'm like, yeah, it's the one with the sentence. So Sam continues on, blah blah blah. He goes back into the house and he enters this fuck-ass padded room, and Oscar locks him in there, and then over the intercom he says that he's trying a new kind of art tonight. The art of a moment. So then Sam overhears on the intercom as a bunch of people talk, and Oscar tells them all, like, "Welcome to my house, like, as you know, you all came here for a wine tasting or like a whiskey tasting or what the fuck ever." But of course there's poison in the whiskey and all of them die, and Sam overhears it all happen on the thingy. So immediately after this, Oscar is like, "And they call this art? Mass murderers are not worthy to stand with me. Oh, now I ruined so many beautiful showpieces and I will never forgive myself for that." So he's like being weird. And like I mentioned earlier, he doesn't have the like, "Oh, no one can get on my level," but he also sort of does. Like, I don't know. It's kind of funny. He's got like this elitistness about his art, but it's like he's literally killing people and putting them in jars of green fluid. So Oscar unlocks the door again, and Sam walks into the next room, and sure enough, there's 5 dead bodies slumped on the chairs and sofas, but they look a bit less than fresh to me. So I honestly sort of think, because like Sam starts beating himself up about like, "I could have stopped him," or like whatever, but I think it was just like, it happened before, and then like Sam couldn't have done anything, because it wasn't like a live feed, you know what I mean? It's kind of giving Saw 2, where Jigsaw is like, "Here's a live feed of your son dying in this house," but then it's not a live feed, it's from like 2 days ago, and the son is like safe and sound in the room the whole time. Crazy. Anyways, so Sam continues on as per usual, and he finds another note written by Oscar that says, "Today I went to the university in the science department and I saw embalmed animals that looked alive. There was a flask with a snake where I carefully placed a branch of fern, and it turned out very interesting and beautiful. I think I'll decorate the other flasks during this week, somehow." So within the game, this note is supposed to be the alleged explanation for where Oscar's fascination with embalming began, but I personally figure the real reason was because he read Matilda's memoirs, since his reasonings of giving eternal life and preserving beauty are just too similar to hers, but I'll mention this again later. So we continue on with Sam, and he solves more puzzles and what the fuck ever. He solves one puzzle that has like a pressure gauge thing, and afterwards Oscar says, "Pressure all around us can bring us down, but sometimes it helps us create something valuable." So Oscar simultaneously views the whole world as evil and against him, but also acknowledges that his tragic life has led him to creating something valuable, you know, his art, which is interesting because I find usually villains who think the whole world is against them only think it's evil and they didn't deserve it and nothing good will come of it. So they figure, why contribute anything valuable to the world in the first place? So all they want to do is cause pain and like get revenge and stuff. But Oscar apparently still actually does have some sort of love for humanity, or like for the world, even if it's in a weird kind of fucked up twisted way and hidden behind layers upon layers of like whatever the hell is going on in his brain, which is another cool example of him being a mystery to himself, and another cool example of him being a really interesting villain. He's described as an anti-hero, which I'm not super knowledgeable about anti-heroes to know if that's accurate, but I think that's cool too. Like, what the hell? So after this, Sam goes back to the observatory and finds another victim. This guy is the other guy that is unexplained, like Icarus. Absolutely no fucking clue what his deal is. The only thing Oscar says is like we're drawn to the stars, but what happens if we get close to them or something? And it's like, what the fuck does that mean? It's sort of similar to Icarus too, of like, you fly too close to the sun, you know? So I don't know. But then Sam goes back to the sewage tunnels and he blows a fucking brick wall up with literal dynamite. And then he finds another victim, the vampire, who, if I remember correctly, is the last victim that we find. So Oscar says,
Vampire, a disgusting creature of the darkness. It lives by drinking life from others, ruining them. But I give people immortality. I created this vampire to serve as a reminder of just how right I am.
Which is so fucking funny, dude. King shit, king behavior. So there's like 3 categories of Oscar victims. There's the ones where the person themselves doesn't have any connection to Oscar, but the piece is meant to serve a point, like the watchmaker about time, the vampire about vampires, and Icarus about flying too close to the sun. And then there's the ones where the victim does have personal connection to Oscar, like his ex-wife, the mechanic, the butler. And then there's the random ass victims of the mass murder. Rest in peace to them. Completely unexplained, like just who the hell were those people? I have no idea. But the weird thing about Icarus and the star guy is that they do serve to illustrate a point, or like they have a theme, but the point itself still has nothing to do with Oscar. The other ones that serve points have things to do with him, like the women being evil ones, or the storyteller with his childhood, or the vampire with proving that he's right. But what do stars and flying too close to the sun have to do with Oscar at all? I have no idea. I will mention though, Oscar uses Icarus to make a point about Sam flying too close to the sun and burning up, you know, writing about Oscar and then getting Anna kidnapped. But like, there's no fucking way Oscar went and just killed a whole guy and fucking put him in a box on the ceiling just for that. Unless... So after yet more puzzles, Sam finally gets to the end of the game. But having played completely by Oscar's rules, he falls literally right into a trap and ends up in a tank that is, surprise, surprise, slowly filling with embalming fluid. He's in Oscar's lab, and we can see Anna on a bed behind him, unconscious, behind Oscar, who is standing in front of the tank that Sam is slowly drowning in. So Oscar starts talking about how Sam and Anna will be his best exhibits, and his first to include 2 people. And he says his other guests, aka his other victims, gave up early on, but Sam is the only one to keep pushing through. And Oscar also tells Sam that everything he read on those notes he's been finding is all bullshit that Oscar made up. So, is that really true? I don't think so. I think some of the notes were fake, but I don't think all of them were. Obviously, there's at least the real one about him and his dad hunting, probably. But if we think back to the doctor's note, either that one is real too, which means maybe a bunch of them are, or it's fake, which leads me to think the rest of them are real, or at least based in truth. Because in that note, his doctor describes Oscar as being a master manipulator, but I don't think someone who's actually a master manipulator would describe themselves that way, which means if Oscar wrote that note, he isn't actually a master manipulator, and therefore probably couldn't have come up with all of the other notes if they weren't at least based in some amount of truth, but that could just be me. Another note that I wanted to touch on is the one where he describes the animals in the embalming fluid. So Sam reads that note and he writes, oh, so this is where Oscar's fascination started. But the note itself doesn't actually say that. It's just a thing that happened. So I wonder if Oscar had read Matilda's memoirs or not by that point. Now, obviously, this game came out before the Lonely Hearts murders, so Matilda didn't even exist yet in terms of, like, the people writing the story. But, if I may, I like to think that Oscar had read Matilda's memoirs at this point, and he was like, man, what the fuck is so cool about embalming? Like, I don't get it. And then he saw these animals, and he tried to, like, decorate one a little, and then he was like, wait, I do see the vision a little bit. You kind of cooked. So during Oscar's monologue, while Sam is getting drowned, Dandy from AHS Freakshow style, he mentions that Anna and Sam are a real personification of love, which proves, at least to me, that all the shit Oscar was saying about, like, but marriage sucks, and, like, also, hey, what if Anna cheated on you, though, was all just bullshit to get Sam really upset, which is pretty funny. And just as Sam's head is about to go under, Anna wakes up, and hits Oscar over the head with a fucking crowbar, which sends him falling down a big ass hole in the floor that he was conveniently standing right next to. And Anna saves Sam, and they get out of there. Fucking safe and sound. I also just realized that the crowbar that Anna knocks Oscar out with is the same one that Oscar used to save Sam from drowning in the sewers, which, yeah. Also, I would like to take this moment to once again point out that unlike Flop Olivia, Anna actually fucking has lines, both with Oscar and to Sam, throughout the game and at the end. Take notes, Olivia, you fucking suck. And she literally saves the day. Olivia could never. What the fuck are we doing? But, uh-oh. Oscar didn't die from the fall. Even though he fell face fucking first onto concrete. I don't know, he's built different. Also, what the fuck is that mask made of, bitch? It didn't even crack? He fell face first onto concrete. Cut to Sam and Anna watching the news, safe and sound at home. The reporter on the TV is at the crime scene, aka Oscar's house, giving the rundown. And she says that the police were unable to find the killer despite a thorough search. And then we get a cutscene similar to the Matilda standing over Archie's grave one, where Oscar is unlocking the gate to an amusement park and walking in, seemingly starting his next evil plot. Good thing we have the bonus chapter. So, bonus chapter takes place 3 months later. Sam gets a call from his boss, Charlie, at the newspaper, telling him that one of his informants told him about a murder committed at the local abandoned park. Abandoned amusement park, and he wants Sam to go there before the cops do so he can like get the scoop and like the news will be really interesting and whatever. Really fucking terrible idea, but of course Sam is like, hell yeah brother, I'll do it. Also during this cutscene, really interesting little thing happens. The camera pans around Sam's living room and we see a couple of books, one of them titled The Interpretation of Dreams and the other one titled Dementia Praecox, Manic Depressive Insanity, and Paranoia. Which, like, dementia praecox, which I don't even know if praecox is how you fucking pronounce that, but that just means, like, early onset dementia, which I think is unrelated. I'm assuming he was just reading the part about manic depressive insanity and paranoia, because that's what Oscar was allegedly diagnosed with. Technically, the Oscar one was depressive psychosis with paranoia, but I think depressive insanity and depressive psychosis are pretty much the same thing. So either Sam is suffering from the same mental condition that Oscar had, or he's trying to understand Oscar better, and it's implied that he's been having dreams about Oscar. So, I'm just saying, maybe they should kiss. I mean, okay, hey, listen. So, Sam, of course, walks right into Oscar's trap and pulls up to that stupid fucking amusement park. And the second he gets there, he hears Oscar over the intercom saying, "For the first time in my life, I have doubts." That's what I was saying during our last meeting. You know, because Oscar was mid-sentence right before Anna knocked him out with a crowbar. And he says, "Welcome, Sam. Again. You unknowingly swallowed my bait. Now it's just us. You and me alone, surrounded by a loaded 20,000 volt fence. So here you stay." Bitch, what? He's gay as hell. What the hell? What the fuck? That's crazy. So perhaps Oscar didn't plan from the beginning to test Sam and see if he could continue Oscar's work or help him with it, or at least not consciously. Maybe he just had some subconscious, like, fascination with Sam and he didn't know why or what it was. But as Sam continued through the house and tried to learn more about Oscar, even though he didn't have to, and it was literally wasting time that Anna could have died in, and all that shit, maybe Oscar was like, this guy, something about this guy hits different, right? So Sam does several puzzles and finds several miscellaneous items and bullshit, and then he manages to turn off this 20,000 volt fence. But he once again falls right into Oscar's trap, because again, he played by Oscar's rules, because he's dumb as shit. This time, though, the roles are reversed. Oscar himself is the one inside the tank, slowly being filled with embalming fluid. But he's on a rooftop opposite the rooftop that Sam is on. So Sam can't do anything to get him out of there, right? So Oscar has decided that he's going to make one last perfect piece of art out of himself, which is pretty Archie-core, if you ask me. He also tells Sam that he's called the police. And when they arrive, they're going to think Sam did it. And maybe they're going to think that Sam did all the other stuff too. And in his last dying moments, Oscar yells for Sam to let this memory of Oscar burn into his mind forever. I'm speechless, babe. What the hell? So the last fucking scene in the whole game is a single shot of a newspaper laying on a wet cobblestone street with the headline, "The criminal journalist Sam Wilde is accused in killing of Goldvale maniac." Oscar fucking got him, bitch. At least to some degree. I think based on the way that this is written, what this means is that the authorities think that Sam killed Oscar, but they think that Oscar killed everybody else. So they're half right, but Sam still went to prison. Lol. So after the bonus chapter, you unlock the developer interview, just like in Lonely Hearts Murders. And there's an interesting fun fact in there that it like kind of doesn't really fit anywhere else in the explanation of the plot, but apparently they were given 5 different rough ideas for the story of this game, and the whole team unanimously voted for this one, which I think is really cool, and I think that means that they were all like really interested and like passionate about this story, and it really shows. Like it really shows. And then another thing that I can talk about now that we have the whole story is the differences and similarities between Archie, Matilda, and Oscar with their art. So all 3 of them thought that they were playing out some sort of higher calling. For Archie, it was setting lonely hearts free, and for Matilda and Oscar, it was preserving beauty and giving people eternal life. I think Oscar's ended up the coolest visually, but Archie's was probably the coolest concept-wise, because he actually had a whole plan from the beginning of like, okay, I need this amount of victims to make a heart out of hearts in my wall, and they're gonna stay in my basement for 30 days to represent blah blah blah, and I'll do the Yellow Lotus thing to represent blah blah blah. Like it was very like theatrical, very poetic, very like artful, you know what I mean? Which is so Archie. I would say his was probably the most like artful, I guess, in the way of like the pretentious artful kind of way where it's all like the symbolism and the, you know, and also the most artful because it was the most public. Like his was the only one that was purposefully put on display like throughout the entire fucking town. Oscar and Matilda both kept their art hidden and just for themselves. Matilda's being the most self-serving since she really only wanted to preserve Archie's beauty for her specifically. She even said at the end that all the rest of the dead people, like her servants, didn't deserve to stand next to Archie, but she had to practice on them to get good enough to do Archie justice. But I do think Oscar's was the most personal, because his pieces in chronological order can sort of lay out his entire life story, which I think is so fucking cool. So like from having a rough childhood to being cheated on to like randomly hating women to his very last dying breath, it's all just so cool to me. Like they put so much thought into this game, like these games, and they look so good and they sound so good and it's just all so good, and I'm obsessed. So that's it, honestly. That's it. It's like a 2-hour video. Okay, shut the fuck up. But yeah, that's the Brink of Consciousness series. I wish there was more of them, but there's not. But also, these 2 are very good, and like they do a very good job of like wrapping everything up, and I love it. I also have always wanted, and I mean, I know they exist, and I just like haven't, I don't consume that much media, to be so honest with you, gang. But I always as a kid used to think about like, I wish there was a movie where the villain won, because it would disrupt the pattern of like every single time you watch a movie, you know that the hero's gonna win. Like it's like I always as a kid was like, I want to be kept on my toes. Like the villain has to win at some point, right? So this is kind of a cool, like the villain half won, or like he did win, but he also died. Like it's a really interesting end to the story, and I really fuck with it. So also, of course, I would highly recommend playing both of these games. They're only like maybe 3 hours long each, 4 possibly if you include the bonus chapter, I don't really know. And there's like a guide, like a free guide, and there's hints and everything, so even if you don't want to do the puzzles and you just want to like watch the story, you can pretty much skip everything and just do the guide stuff. But they're so good. They've got incredible sound design, incredible atmospheres, incredible artwork. Like I could not do it justice in this fuck-ass video with the little turtle, so like just, I'm telling you, you should try them out when you get the chance. Otherwise, I don't know, it's midnight. I need to go to bed. You can send me money on Ko-Fi if you want. Or you can not do that, because we're all kind of broke right now. Anyway, okay. Good night. Goodbye. Goodbye.